ऐसी कैसी आवाजें करते हो ना रे तुम लोग? Yesterday in the lecture, we had started talking about the different adjustments, if you'd observe, how these adjustments will have the effects in the final accounts. I said we will be talking about from the perspective of accounting entries thereof. We'll be talking about the effects of that to be given in the final accounts. Understand a point in here. When I'm saying that something to be given or the effects to be given in final account, like I've written about the closing stock that it will appear in the trading account onto the credit side and the balance sheet onto the asset side. How it appears, I'll just try to present it. I'll just try to show you that if I'm doing the adjustment of closing stock, I'll prepare a trading account. In this trading account, I'll write, let's say this is my trading account and this is my balance sheet. In my trading account, I'll write on to the credit side as what? By closing stock. All right. And at the same time, when I'm preparing my balance sheet, I had shown you the formats of these all, if you remember. When I'm preparing the balance sheet, in my balance sheet under the current assets, there are three parts in fact that we prepare in the balance sheet. One is called as fixed asset, the second is investment, and the third is current assets. So under the current assets, I'll show what? I'll show stock in trade. We also call this as the closing stock. The stock which is still available for trading. That's why it is called as stock in trade. So this is how that will be presented. All right. This is what we have talked about from the perspective of closing stock. I hope you are understanding this presentation also. Another adjustment that we are supposed to do is the adjustment related to outstanding expenses. Now, what do I mean by these outstanding expenses? Expenses accrued and due but not paid. Means what? I've already received the benefits for that. I've already got the benefits of the given expenses, but I have not yet paid the amounts towards that. That is why those are called as outstanding expenses. Now, what is the accounting entry that we are supposed to do for the outstanding expenses? Why do we need to do the accounting of outstanding expenses? Again, two basic principles apply here. One, we call that as accrual concept. Accrual concept क्या कहता है? जब भी आपका obligation to pay या right to receive होगा, तो you are expected to recognize, you are supposed to record a particular transaction in your books of accounts. Similarly, matching principle आपको क्या कहता है कि अगर वो expense इस साल से related है, तो you should be recognizing that in the current year. Please understand and remember this, my dear friends. The basic difference between accrual and matching is what? The accrual concept does not talk about the period to which it relates. Accrual कहता है जैसे जैसे आपका right to receive obligation to pay arise होते रहता है, you should keep recognizing it. But matching principle is the extension of accrual concept. Matching principle not only asks you to recognize the expenses or incomes, but it also says that if it is related to the current year income, the current year expense, then it should be recognized in the current year. That's the basic difference between accrual and matching. तो आउटस्टैंडिंग एक्सपेंसेस आपको रिकॉग्नाइज करने हैं, आपको रिकॉर्ड करने हैं बिकॉज ऑफ द अक्रूवल कंसेप्ट एज वेल एज मैचिंग कंसेप्ट. अक्रूवल इसलिए क्योंकि ऑब्लिगेशन टू पे अराइज हो गया, और मैचिंग इसलिए क्योंकि वो करंट ईयर से रिलेटेड है इसलिए. ऑलराइट, नाउ हाउ डू वी डू द अकाउंटिंग ऑफ दिस? Please understand that when there is an expense which is still to be paid, outstanding expense do not mean कि अगर मेरा X बाहर खड़ा होगा तो it will pain me a lot. Outstanding X pains. Nothing of that kind applies here. If the X is standing out, it pains a lot. That's not the meaning of this. So when there is an outstanding expense, I need to increase the expense of current year. Correct or not? And at the same time, I have to show that as a liability in the balance sheet. Kyun liability in the balance sheet? Because the amount is still payable. Therefore, it will be shown as a liability in our balance sheet. All right. So what will be the entry for increasing the expense and showing as a liability? The entry will be respective expense account debit. What respective expense? Respective expense can be salary, can be rent, can be electricity, any of the expense to outstanding expense. Is it right? Now, how it will appear? It will either appear in trading account or it can appear in the profit and loss account added to respective expense. Why added to respective expense? अब देखो, या तो आप अकाउंटिंग एंट्री पास करोगे या तो उसके बैलेंस शीट में डायरेक्टली इफेक्ट दोगे, फाइनल अकाउंट्स में डायरेक्टली इफेक्ट दोगे, जो हम लोग लिख रहे हैं उस तरह से. आपके अभी के लेवल पे हम लोग अकाउंटिंग एंट्री वाइज नहीं करेंगे, हम लोग उन चीजों के डायरेक्टली बैलेंस शीट में इफेक्ट देंगे. इस वजह से मैं दोनों चीजें बात कर रहा हूं. ऑलराइट, नाउ इट विल आइदर अपीयर इन द ट्रेडिंग अकाउंट और P&L अकाउंट. कैसे? Let's take the example of wages, carriage inward. अगर वो outstanding है तो those will be added in the trading account because those are the direct expenses. और वहीं अगर profit and loss account के items हो, electricity, telephone, traveling, salaries, then those will be added to the respective expense in the profit and loss account. And in the balance sheet, it will appear in the liabilities side under the current liabilities. Under the current liabilities. Am I clear for everyone? So this is how it will be appearing in your final accounts, the outstanding expense. इसका थोड़ा सा इजहार करके दिखाता हूं. Observe it. Suppose there is the situation of wages outstanding and traveling expense या wages outstanding का ही करते हैं सिर्फ salaries outstanding सारे भाड़ में जाए. This is a general thing that comes. भाड़ में नहीं, the concept. So we'll be needing the profit and loss account for that. And we'll also be needing the balance sheet for that. Trading account नहीं है. Profit and loss account. We'll write in the profit and loss account onto the debit side. To salaries. Whatever is the amount thereof will be written in the inner amount column, not in the final amount column. Add outstanding salary. And then the total of that will be appearing in the P&L account debit side. Similarly, we'll go into the balance sheet onto the liability side under the heading of current liabilities. Under current liabilities, we'll be writing what? Outstanding salaries. It is also called as salaries payable. So those amounts will be appearing accordingly. Did you understand this point? Okay. The next one, the next adjustment that we are supposed to do is prepaid expenses. Now, what is this prepaid expense? Expense paid, but benefit not received, not yet received. You have paid the amount, but you have to yet get the benefit against that. Like take for example, there are many of the situations where your landlord may ask you to pay the rent for the whole year in advance. Suppose आपने जनवरी में कोई प्रॉपर्टी रेंट पे ली और उस प्रॉपर्टी का पूरे साल का रेंट आपने जनवरी में ही दे दिया. Now the period of January, February and March falls in the year 2019-20. But from April to December that falls in 2021. तो यहां 9 महीने का रेंट आपने एडवांस में दे रखा है या नहीं? That advance rent paid is what we call as the prepaid expense. Because the amount is paid, but the benefit against that will be received or is yet to be received and will be received in the subsequent financial year. Again, one, the expense has not yet accrued, even though you have paid it. Two, it is not related to current year. That 9 months ka rent is related to subsequent financial year. The same kind of thing may arise for the insurances as well. Insurance is generally taken for the, which is subject matter of solicitation. Please meet your insurance advisor before taking any kind of insurance. So insurance, when you are taking it, in that case, you are paying for the whole year in advance. And as you are paying for the whole year in advance, therefore, you will be taking the benefit of that in future as well. So that should be treated as the expense for the period to which it relates. All right. Therefore, now what I'll be required to do? When I had paid the expense, at that time I had passed the entry as expense account debit to cash oblique bank account. But अब उसके against benefit मिलना बाकी है. So I have to reduce the current year expense. And I have to show that as an asset or not. Because against that, I'm supposed to receive the benefit. Mind well, my dear friends, outstanding expense, prepaid expense, these are considered as the representative personal accounts. Why representative? Any account against which the benefit is receivable or to be given. The cash is receivable or to be given to a person. In that case, it becomes a representative personal account. Got it? So accordingly, I have to reduce the expense of current year and I have to carry it forward as an asset or not. Therefore, accounting entry will be what? Prepaid expense account debit. Prepaid expense account debit to respective expense account. All right. And how will it appear in the final accounts? Same ways, trading and trading or in the P&L account, it will be, instead of adding, will get subtracted, reduced from the respective expense. And in the balance sheet, how will it appear? From respective expense. In the balance sheet, onto the asset side, it will appear under the current assets. Am I right? So how will it appear? Let's observe it. We'll take the example of prepaid rent only. How will it appear in the balance sheet and into the P&L account? Let's observe it. First, we'll have what? To rent. Add. No. It will be subtract. Because it is not the expense of current year. Therefore, subtract. Prepaid rent. Outer amount column will be the balance. And same ways in the balance sheet onto the asset side, under current assets, we'll be showing what? Prepaid rent. Please remember a thing, my dear friends, here. Prepaid expenses are been reduced from the respective expense. Outstanding salaries are being added to the current year expense. If there was any outstanding at the beginning, if there is any prepaid at the beginning, the effects of that will be reversed. क्यों? मान लो कोई अमाउंट हमने पिछले साल में इस साल के लिए पे कर रखी थी. मतलब क्या हुआ? पिछले साल में प्रीपेड था, इस साल में वो एक्सपेंस हो जाएगा या नहीं? Therefore, such prepaid at the beginning will be added to the current year expense. If there is any outstanding expense at the beginning, what do you mean by outstanding at the beginning? The amount of expense which was payable at the end of the previous year. That is what we call as the outstanding at the beginning. Such outstanding at the beginning is considered as the expense of previous year, and if it has been paid during the current year, it should be reduced from current year expense or not. You must have done this in the topic of NPO if you would be observing. Whenever in the opening balance sheet the outstanding salary was given, you were reducing it from the amount which has been shown as paid in the receipt and payment account. Why you did so is because the outstanding at the beginning is not the expense of current year, it is the expense of the previous year but paid during the year. And therefore you reduce it from the expense of the current year. So I'll just write a note, point to remember. Outstanding expense at the beginning of the year is expense of previous year paid during the year. Right? Hence, it is reduced from current year expense. All right. There'll be no second effect of this. Why no second effect of this is because it won't be shown in the balance sheet of the current year. It was already shown in the balance sheet of the previous year. Similarly, prepaid expense at beginning means expense of current year paid during previous year. Expense of current year but paid during previous year. Hence, it is added to current year expense. I hope you are getting these points absolutely correctly. Yesterday, in fact, I uploaded all the videos of basic account also, and I have shared that as an open link on that basic accounts group. All those who are not there on that group can get added to that group and get the links of those basic account sessions. Whomsoever is interested to revise through the basic account part, any of the basics of accounts part, so you can get it done. Well, the next point, I know it's only the May batch students who are there on that group. All those who are interested to be there, there are some students from April batch also here. So if you are interested, you just ping me up and I'll get yourself added to the admin of that group. The admin adds very minimum number of people. He is admin, na? Add minimum kind of that. तो इसलिए ठीक है करेंगे. But anyways, let's come on to the next adjustment. That is, प्रतीक्षा आज जाग रही है, कल सोई हुई थी ऐसा लग रहा था मेरे को. Well, the next concept that we have to talk about is the income receivable. Means outstanding income. The income, the income that is related to the current year, but it is still to be received. What is the meaning of income receivable? Income accrued. आज बारिश बहुत है, इस वजह से शायद बहुत सारे लोग नहीं हैं. But not received. जब लाइव लेक्चर्स हुआ करते थे तब मैं ये जनरली ये स्टेटमेंट कहा करता था, हुआ करता था. उस समय पे बारिश होती थी बहुत सारी तो लोग गायब हो जाते थे. बट यहाँ तो मतलब हाँ, कल दोपहर से ही है. आज उनको बस नहीं मिली होगी बराबर, ट्रेन बंद है, बस मिली नहीं होगी, रिक्शा वाले बहुत पैसा लेते हैं, एंड सो ऑन एंड सो फोर्थ. एनी विच वेज ठीक है. मुझे याद है जब लाइव सेशंस हुआ करते थे ना, तो श्रद्धा सच में सोई हुई आज. इन द लाइव सेशंस वी यूज्ड टू हैव दैट कि जब भी ऐसे बारिश होती थी ना तो वो क्लासरूम के बाहर ऐसे छतरियों की बाढ़ आया करती थी कि हर किसी की छतरियां रेनकोट्स बाहर लगे हुए पड़े हैं and they are entering into the classes. That used to be the case. Now that all concept is gone. आजकल हर किसी के पास गाड़ी है, घोड़ा है, बंगला है, शोहरत है, दौलत है, भगवान का दिया सब कुछ है, no? इज्जत है. Well, anyways, so the point, income receivable is basically what? The income which is accrued, but you have not yet received it. And that's why it is called as income receivable. Again, as per the matching principle, as it is the income of current year, it should be recognized in the current year itself or not. And for that purpose, you want to increase the income of current year. And because that income is receivable, therefore, that will be shown as an asset into the balance sheet. So what will be the accounting entry? Income receivable, debit to respective income account. All right. And then where will it appear? In the profit and loss account, maybe the trading account also, not a big problem. We'll be showing what? Added to respective income whereas it will be appearing at the same time in the balance sheet onto the asset side as a current asset. I hope you are understanding the points well. Let's say the situation is of interest receivable. The example on that, interest receivable. Now, how will it appear? The interest receivable. Understand and observe. In the P&L account, onto the credit side, we'll have by interest. Please remember, my dear friends, you can never buy the interest. You can only have the interest. और इंटरेस्ट होगा तो अपने आप वृद्धि होती रहेगी. वृद्धि किसी का नाम नहीं है, नहीं तो ढूंढोगे वृद्धि कौन है. Interest as your income onto the credit side of P&L account. Add. We can write that as outstanding. We can write that as receivable. And the total to the outer amount column. And at the same time, as this interest is still receivable, therefore, under current assets of your balance sheet, will be showing what? Interest receivable. Am I right for all? I hope I'm going good for everyone. Still, if anyone has a question, can just raise it in the meantime. Okay. Let us talk about the next adjustment now. That is goods distributed as free samples. Now, why a business will generally be distributing the goods as free sample? In fact, the previous wala हमने किया ना income receivable, that is quite similarly applicable to the NPO topic for subscriptions. If you remember, there you had subscriptions received in advance, subscription outstanding, subscription receivable at the end, subscription pre-received at the end. Whatever is receivable at the end, you will add that to current year income. जो आपको करंट ईयर में सब्सक्रिप्शन मिले हैं एज पर योर रिसीट एंड पेमेंट अकाउंट, आई एम टॉकिंग फ्रॉम द पर्सपेक्टिव ऑफ द एनपीओ. Whatever is the subscription received during the year, and there are certain subscriptions which are still receivable at the end of current year, you add that to the current year subscription. Similarly, if there is some subscription which is pre-received but received included in the received amount, that is not the income of current year, that is the income of next year or not, so you remove that subscription pre-received at the end. So what you used to do, if you remember, for the subscription case in the NPO, मैं दोनों फॉर्मेट में लिखूंगा, अकाउंट फॉर्मेट में भी लिखूंगा और at the same time I'll be writing that in the statement format also. Whichever suits you, you can take it. Subscriptions received Especially this is applicable when you are been given the total of subscriptions together in the receipt and payment account. If the subscription for different years is given separately in your receipt and payment account, then this particular concept do not apply. What we are doing is do not apply as such. वहां इजहार थोड़ा अलग होगा, क्योंकि इजहार ये माहौल के हिसाब से होता है। सही समय पे सही इजहार करना बहुत ज्यादा जरूरी है, और इजहार मिजाज को देखते हुए ना किया जाए तो उस इजहार का उत्तर इकरार में नहीं बदलेगा। ऑलराइट, so what you do when you are given the subscriptions in total in your receipt and payment account? Subscription received as per receipt and payment account, the total amount. To this you add what? Subscriptions receivable at end. Why do you add the subscription receivable at the end? Is because it is the income of current year but not yet been received, therefore it is added. Similarly, add pre-received subscription at beginning, जो आपको जनरली ओपनिंग बैलेंस शीट में प्रोवाइड किया जाता था या ओपनिंग बैलेंसेस में प्रोवाइड किया जाता था। Why you need to add the pre-received subscription? The basic reason behind that is it is the income of current year but received in previous year. As it is the income of current year but received in previous year, therefore it will be added to the current year income, क्योंकि इस साल के रिसीट पेमेंट अकाउंट वाली अमाउंट में वो इंक्लूडेड नहीं है। देन सब्ट्रैक्ट सब्सक्रिप्शन रिसीवेबल at beginning. Why I need to subtract the subscriptions receivable at the beginning? Understand, it is the income of previous year as per the opening balance sheet, as per the opening balances, as per the trial balance, but received in this year. So it is the preceding year's income which is received in current year, so it cannot be treated as income of current year. And as it is not related to the current year income, therefore we are subtracting it from the subscriptions received during the year. हमने last year भी इनकम दिखाया था, सो जस्ट रिसीट साइड पे नहीं डाल सकते हैं क्या? अंडरस्टैंड तितिक्षा, द पॉइंट इज व्हाट, लास्ट ईयर में रिसीव्ड था बट वो लास्ट ईयर के इनकम एंड एक्सपेंडिचर अकाउंट में नहीं गया था। इस साल के इनकम एंड एक्सपेंडिचर अकाउंट में जाएगा बट वो रिसीव्ड में इंक्लूडेड नहीं है। डिड यू अंडरस्टैंड द डिफरेंस? ये जो तुमको अमाउंट रिसीव्ड यहां पे दी हुई है, this does not include the pre-received subscription at the beginning, and therefore we are adding it. All right, So subscription receivable at the beginning will be subtracted from the received amount during the year. Same ways, if there is a pre-received subscription at the end, if there is a pre-received subscription at the end, that pre-received subscription also need to be subtracted. Why? Because that is received during the current year. That is included in the receipt and payment amount, but that amount is not the income of current year. Therefore, that will also be subtracted, and the net amount, the final amount, is what you call as subscription income. Subscription in the income and expenditure account. That's how you do it. Same ways, if I want to do this in the form of an account, how will I do that? If this is my subscription account, whatever is the amount received during the year, income received, my entry will be bank account debit to subscriptions account. So on to the credit side of my subscription account, I'll be writing by bank. I am not making the distinction between subscription related to the subscription received related to current year, preceding year, subsequent year. मैं इसके अलग अलग अकाउंट नहीं बना रहा हूँ, सब्सक्रिप्शन का सिर्फ एक ही अकाउंट बना रहा हूं, वहां ये अप्लाई होगा. Right? Now, whatever is the subscription outstanding at the end of current year is the income of current year only. क्या एंट्री पास की आपने इनकम रिसीवेबल एट द एंड के लिए? इनकम रिसीवेबल अकाउंट डेबिट टू रिस्पेक्टिव इनकम अकाउंट means for subscription receivable at the end, my entry will be what? Subscription receivable account debit to subscription account. So in the subscription account onto the credit side, by subscription receivable at the end. Correct? Similarly, if there is any prepaid amount, pre-received amount, that pre-received amount will reduce the current year receipt or not. Therefore, onto the debit side, to subscription pre-received, whatever is the amount of that. Now, out of this subscription receivable and this subscription pre-received will be appearing in the closing balance sheet also. All right. Now, whatever was the subscription pre-received at the beginning is the current year income. Therefore, onto the credit side will come as what? By, now this was for end, by pre-received subscription. This is for beginning. And whatever was receivable at the end of the previous year cannot be treated as income of current year. Therefore, it will be debited to current year subscription. To subscription receivable at beginning, whatever is the amount related to that. And the net amount thereof, the net amount of subscription will be transferred to what? To income and expenditure account as the balancing figure. I hope you got this point right. This is how you are going to do it. This is how you must have done that in the NPO topic of your syllabus. Correct? In fact, we will stop by here itself. The adjustments related to goods distributed as free sample, goods destroyed by fire, goods being taken away by the proprietor, these all will be doing in tomorrow's session. All right? Tomorrow we'll be meeting at 6:30 a.m. Thank you.